Hasbro's Ghostbusters Plasma Series Afterlife Ecto 1 is hitting retailers right now, but there are two major variants. And on this episode of Geek Dad Life, we're going to look at both variants and try to figure out which boxes contain which version, and look at the differences between the two. Hey everybody, and welcome to Geek Dad Life. It's your host, Jay Glatfelter here. Ghostbusters is my favorite topic to be geeky about, and as such, I've done a lot of Ghostbusters videos on this channel. If you like those videos and want me to do more, hit that like button, and if you want to see when those episodes drop, click the subscribe button and that bell icon. Sitting before me, I have two identical boxes for the new Ghostbusters Plasma Series Afterlife version of the Ecto 1. But each box contains a different variation of that very car. When Jason Reitman presented this upcoming toy to us back at Hasbro PulseCon, I was very excited because we have not gotten a collector level, essentially toy version of the Ecto 1 on toy shelves before. And while it was obviously scaled a lot smaller than any of the Plasma Series figures, more of a 3 3/4 inch scale than a 6-inch scale, it was still awesome to be getting a collector level Ecto 1 on toy shelves. But when the images first hit Target.com, I noticed that the kind of front end of the Ecto 1 and kind of the promo images looked way darker than any footage we've seen of the Ecto 1 in Ghostbusters Afterlife so far. Now the Afterlife Ecto is a bit more rusted out. It's more of a barn find than it looked like in the first Ghostbusters film. But the kind of almost charcoaled front end of the car seemed to be overkill compared to what we've seen in the trailer, as well as when Jason Reitman showed us this Plasma Series Ecto 1 at PulseCon. So this charcoal version of the Ecto 1 had me feeling a little meh, to be honest. But this Plasma Series Ecto 1 is a Target exclusive, and the pre-order sold out super fast. So I resigned myself to maybe trying to find this thing in the wild. But then people started to get their pre-orders shipped to them in January. And, seeing pictures of that Ecto 1 and video reviews of that Ecto 1, it looked a lot better. It didn't have that kind of charcoaled front end. The video review that had me really excited was the one Toy Shiz did, because I thought the car looked far more accurate to what we've seen in the trailer and elsewhere. But in collector groups, I saw people were getting both the charcoal version and the non-charcoal version, and that just had me super stressed out because I definitely wanted the non-charcoal one, and there seemed to be no way to tell which box contained which version of the Ecto 1. So from that point on, I set out to try and acquire as many as it took for me to get the non-charcoal one. But at the same time, I was trying to see, was there anything, any number, any manufacturing stamp on the box that would let us know whether or not the car contained inside was the charcoal version or the non-charcoal version, so that way people that maybe prefer one or the other can get the Ecto that they want. So I've ended up buying 4 of these Plasma Series Afterlife Ecto 1s. And out of those 4, 2 were the charcoal version and 2 weren't. Now this is way too small a sample size to say this is true for all of the Plasma Series Ectos, but there was a characteristic that was present on the boxes that correlated with the ones that I got that were the charcoal version and ones that weren't. On most toys out on toy shelves today, there is a manufacturing stamp that's indented into the card back or box of the toy. And on the back of the boxes for the ones that had the charcoal deco, those started with 02. Now that could signify the factory that these came from, because the 2 that I got that were non-charcoaled versions started with 03. Now the other thing about the 2 that I have that are 03, those were shipped as an online order. The 2 that I have found, and really all the ones that I've seen in a retail store, the ones that have been hitting really recently in my area, start with 02. And when I'm thinking of a lot of the ones that I've seen, especially the ones that first came out, the ones that shipped for those online orders, they did not have the charcoaled front end. So this all could be random happenstance. It could just be an overzealous sprayer in the factory is making some of these extra crispy versus regular. But it also could very well be that in some factories, they are doing it this way with the kind of extra crispy version, and in another one, they're doing it without. And if that is the case, it is possible that people will be able to kind of decide which one they want to buy. So help me in proving this theory. If you have gotten a Ghostbusters Plasma Series Afterlife Ecto 1, please, and you have the box still, or you haven't opened it yet, let me know what the manufacturing stamp is on your box and what version of the Ecto did you get? Did you get the charcoal version or the non-charcoal version? And hopefully very quickly we'll be able to tell if my theory is true or it was just a coincidence. Now, taking these two Ectos out of the box, they are practically identical aside from that kind of overspray on the car. There's a little bit of assembly that you have to do for the roof rack, as well as the antennas and the ladder and those blue hoses. Now, for one of my charcoal versions, some of the roof rack pieces were damaged, which was a bummer right out of the box. But having these two side by side, it's very clear. Just the only difference is that they kind of oversprayed this, what I'd say is smoke marks or soot. I wouldn't classify it as dirt or dust just because it's so dark. And it makes me wonder, could it be, eventually in the movie, something happens to the Ecto 1 where it gets blasted by flames or something, and that's why they have this variation, because otherwise it doesn't make much sense other than, somewhere, some model that the manufacturer had kind of said, oh, put this much of this smoke stains on the car. But overall, having both in hand, to my eyes, I really prefer the non-charcoal version. It looks a lot more like the Ecto one that we've seen in the trailer, and I assume that we'll see in the Ghostbusters Afterlife movie, and honestly, it just kind of looks more like an old and rusty Ecto, and the other one with like so much scorching on it just kind of takes away, I think, from the classic iconic look of the Ecto 1. Now, I will say the paint application details on both versions on the front end of the car are very lacking. It's almost just in this kind of copper-looking rust color. When even on the box, the paint applications, everything are a lot more detailed and it looks a lot better because that's inaccurate on both of these cars compared to what we've seen in the trailer. So that's a little bit of a cost cutting here that really, I think, detracts from what is otherwise a really good replica car for the Ecto 1. The other thing of note is the size. Yes, it is way too small for your 6-inch Plasma Series Ghostbusters figures. And honestly, the steering wheel is so big in the car that while it should be able to fit 3 3/4-inch figures, it still doesn't because that steering wheel is so big. When I try to put in a G.I. Joe action figure, it doesn't quite have enough space to fit it. It does almost fit a Mask figure, but those, are much smaller than the rest of this car to scale. So overall, I like the non-charcoal version of the car. I can absolutely give a Geek Dad Life buy rating to that one. But until we know for sure if we can really discern the difference between what is contained within one of these Ghostbusters Plasma Series Ecto 1's boxes, it's hard for me to give the stamp of approval across the board. So again, if you have picked up this Plasma Series Ecto 1 and you have the box still or you haven't opened it yet, let me know what those little stamped numbers are on the back of your box and which version you got, because we really could be able to figure this thing out. And if not, it'll have to be we open these things up and get the one we want, or maybe trade it with another collector for, one that they want. Or if you're, a mint in box collector, doesn't really matter because you're not taking it out of the box. Definitely check out some of my other videos on YouTube, like this one that YouTube wants you to check out, and one of my more recent videos. And until next time, hasta luego and goodbye.